Dear beloved, today I want to share the testimony of Grace, a woman who died for 3 minutes, and in that short span of time, she met Jesus in a way that changed everything about her life. Grace was a wife, a mother, and for years she worked at Planned Parenthood believing she was helping women. But in those 3 minutes beyond death, she was shown the truth about love, life, and eternity. What happened next not only transformed her faith, but also healed her family, her marriage, and her broken heart. I am going to share her testimony as it was sent to us. No part has been removed or added, so I encourage you to stick to the end to fully understand her experience. Before we continue, please let me know where you're listening from. It would be nice to feel closer, even if we're physically apart. Also, don't forget to like. It will help this video to reach so many people who need to listen to this testimony, and leave a comment. Share your thoughts about this near-death experience testimony. Let's have a fair and open discussion so we can learn from each other here on this channel, and don't forget to subscribe for more of this content coming your way. Enjoy listening. My name is Grace, and 3 years ago, I died for 3 minutes. I know that sounds crazy. People don't just come back from the dead and tell stories about it. But here I am, sitting at my kitchen table, watching the morning light dance across the same coffee mug I've used for 15 years, and I can't shake the feeling that everything, absolutely everything, changed in those 3 minutes. I used to work at Planned Parenthood. For 8 years, I believed I was helping women make difficult choices. I thought I was doing good work, but during those 3 minutes when my heart stopped beating, I met Jesus. And he showed me something that broke my heart wide open, something about the lives I thought didn't matter, about love and truth, and about what it really means to be alive. I'm telling you this story because I have to, not because someone made me, but because when you've seen what I've seen, staying quiet feels like the biggest lie you could ever tell. That morning started like every other morning for the past 2 years. Frank and I sat at opposite ends of our kitchen table, him reading his newspaper, me scrolling through emails on my phone. The silence between us had become so thick you could almost touch it. "Coffee's good today," he said, not looking up. "Mem," I replied, not really listening. We used to talk, we used to laugh until our stomachs hurt and stay up late planning weekend trips. But somewhere along the way, we'd become 2 strangers sharing a house and a mortgage. I blamed work stress. He blamed my job. We were probably both right. The drive to the clinic felt longer than usual that Tuesday. Maybe it was the gray February sky, or maybe it was the weight of another day doing work that used to feel meaningful but now just felt heavy. I parked in my usual spot and walked through the back entrance, nodding to the security guard who'd been there since my first day. "Morning, Grace," called Sarah from the front desk. "Morning," I said, forcing a smile. The day blurred together like they all did. Appointments, paperwork, counseling sessions where I explained procedures in the same calm, clinical voice I'd perfected over 8 years. But that day, something felt different. Maybe it was the way the teenage girl in my 2 p.m. appointment kept asking if it would hurt, or maybe it was how her mother sat in the corner, crying quietly into a tissue. By 5:30, I was exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. I gathered my things and remembered Valentine's Day dinner. Frank had made reservations at that Italian place downtown, the same place where he'd proposed 12 years ago. I called him from the parking lot. "Frank, I'm so sorry, I completely forgot about tonight." The silence on the other end lasted too long. "Of course you did," he said finally. His voice wasn't angry, it was worse than angry, it was resigned. "We can reschedule this weekend maybe." "Sure, Grace, whatever works for you." The line went dead and I sat in my car staring at the phone. When had I become this person? When had I stopped caring about the things that used to matter most? Snow started falling as I drove home, big wet flakes that stuck to the windshield faster than the wipers could clear them. I-25 was slick, but I'd driven this route thousands of times. I knew every curve, every on-ramp. I was thinking about Frank, about how his eyes used to light up when I walked into a room, when I saw the headlights coming toward me in my lane. Time slowed down in that impossible way it does right before everything changes forever. I had just enough time to think, this is really happening, before the world exploded into metal and glass and darkness. Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand who I was in those moments before the crash. I wasn't evil, I need you to know that. I genuinely believed I was helping women. When scared teenagers came to our clinic, I saw their fear and wanted to make it easier. When women with complicated pregnancies sat across from my desk, I thought I was giving them choices. I told myself that every single day for 8 years. But somewhere along the way, I'd stopped feeling much of anything. It happened gradually, like losing your hearing or your eyesight. First, I stopped crying at sad movies. Then I stopped laughing at Frank's jokes, not because they weren't funny, but because laughter felt like too much effort. I stopped calling my sister on Sundays. I stopped noticing the way spring flowers bloomed in our garden. The worst part was what happened with Emma. Emma is my daughter, was my daughter. I'm not sure how to say it anymore because she stopped speaking to me 2 years before the accident. She was 25 then, fresh out of graduate school with a degree in social work and enough idealism to power a small city. She came home for Christmas dinner and everything was fine until she asked about my work. "Mom, I need to ask you something," she said, setting down her fork, "and I need you to be honest with me." I should have seen it coming. Emma had always been the type to ask hard questions, even as a little girl. "What is it, honey? How do you do it? How do you go to work every day and end pregnancies and come home and act like it's just another job?" The silence at the dinner table was deafening. Frank cleared his throat and excused himself to check on dessert. "Emma, it's complicated," I started. "These women need—" "No, Mom, stop." Her eyes filled with tears. "I've been trying to understand for years. I've read everything. I've listened to both sides. But at the end of the day, you're ending human lives, and you know it." I felt something twist in my chest, something I'd been pushing down for months. They're not viable yet. They're not what, Moms? Not human, not alive. She stood up from the table. "When you were pregnant with me, when did I become real to you? When did I become worth protecting?" I couldn't answer her. The truth was, I'd felt Emma move at 18 weeks. I talked to her, played music for her, loved her completely from the moment I saw that first ultrasound. But admitting that would mean admitting that every day at work I was. "I can't do this anymore," Emma said. "I can't pretend that what you do is okay just because you're my mom. I love you, but I can't be around this." She left that night. Frank and I barely spoke for the rest of the holiday. And in the 2 years that followed, Emma sent birthday cards and Christmas gifts, but she never visited. She never called just to talk. Frank tried to bridge the gap at first. "Maybe if you found a different job," he suggested once. "This is my career, Frank. I'm good at what I do." "You used to be good at a lot of things," he said quietly. "You used to be good at being happy." He was right, and we both knew it. I used to garden. I used to read novels that had nothing to do with work. I used to wake up on Saturday mornings excited about the day ahead, but all of that felt like it belonged to someone else now. The night before the accident, I'd stood in Emma's old room looking at the photos on her dresser. Pictures of her graduation, her first apartment, her new job helping kids in foster care. She was out there making the world better while what was I doing? That's what I was thinking about as I drove home in the snow. How had I become someone my own daughter couldn't love? How had I become someone I didn't recognize? I was reaching for those thoughts, trying to find some thread of the person I used to be, when those headlights appeared in my lane. The strangest thing about dying is that you don't realize it's happening at first. One moment I was in my car, metal screaming and glass flying everywhere. The next moment I was floating above the accident scene, watching paramedics work on someone who looked exactly like me. It took several seconds or maybe several minutes, time felt different up there, before I understood that the broken woman on the stretcher was me. Really me. "No, no, no," I heard myself say, though I wasn't sure if I was speaking or just thinking very loudly. "I'm right here." But nobody could hear me. I watched them load my body into the ambulance, watched Frank arrive at the hospital with snow still melting in his hair, watched him pace the waiting room floor while doctors worked to restart my heart. The panic hit me all at once. This was it. This was how it ended. Frank would have to plan a funeral. Emma would come home for the first time in 2 years to bury the mother she couldn't even stand to be around. But then something changed. The hospital room, Frank's worried face, the beeping machines, it all started to fade. Not going dark exactly, but dissolving like watercolors in the rain. And in place of all that fear and regret came something I hadn't felt in years: peace. It started as warmth, like stepping into sunshine after being in a cold room for too long. Then it became light, not the harsh fluorescent light of the hospital, but something soft and golden that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I found myself in a place I can only describe as a meadow, though that word doesn't come close to capturing what I saw. The grass was the greenest green I'd ever imagined, and it moved like water in a breeze that felt like a gentle hug. There were flowers everywhere, colors I didn't have names for, colors that made my chest ache with how beautiful they were. Everything there felt more real than real, if that makes sense. Like the world I'd known my whole life was just a dim copy of this place. I wasn't alone. I felt him before I saw him. Love, that's the only word I have for it, but even that feels too small. It was like being wrapped in every good feeling I'd ever had: the joy of holding Emma for the first time, the safety of my mother's arms when I was scared, the peace of watching a sunrise over the ocean all at once, but magnified beyond anything earthly. When I turned around, he was there. Jesus looked exactly like I'd imagined and nothing like I'd expected, all at the same time. His face was kind, with eyes that seemed to hold every star in the universe. But it wasn't his appearance that made me fall to my knees. It was the way he looked at me. He looked at me like he knew everything. Every mean thought I'd ever had, every time I'd been selfish or cruel or indifferent, every life that had ended because of my work, every night I'd come home numb and distant while my husband waited for the wife he used to know. But here's the thing that broke me: he looked at all of that and his face never changed. The love in his eyes never wavered. I started crying then, harder than I'd cried since I was a child. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." He knelt down beside me and pulled me into his arms. "I know," he said, and his voice was like coming home after a long trip. "That's why I'm here." "I messed up everything," I sobbed into his shoulder. "My marriage, my daughter, my life, and the things I did at work, the lives that ended because of me." "I know all of it," he said gently, "and I love you anyway. That's never changed, Grace, not for 1 second." We stayed like that for what felt like hours. Me crying out 8 years of buried grief and guilt, him just holding me and letting me fall apart completely. Finally, when I had no more tears left, he helped me stand up. "Are you ready to see the truth?" he asked. I wasn't. I knew that whatever he was about to show me would change everything, and I was scared, but I nodded anyway. He took my hand and we began to walk through the meadow. As we walked, the scenery around us began to shift and change like pages in a book turning. First, I saw moments from my childhood. My 8th birthday party, where my mom made a cake shaped like a butterfly. The day I learned to ride my bike. Christmas mornings and family vacations and all the ordinary, beautiful moments that make up a life. Then I saw my wedding day, Frank's face when I walked down the aisle, the way he spun me around during our first dance. I saw the day Emma was born, how Frank cried harder than I did when the doctor placed her in my arms. "These were gifts," Jesus said softly, "every one of them." The scenes shifted to harder times: my father's funeral, the year Frank lost his job, the 2 miscarriages I had before Emma was born, the way grief felt like a physical weight in my chest. "Even these," he said, "I was with you through all of it." Then we came to the part I didn't want to see. My first day at Planned Parenthood, the gradual hardening of my heart. The way I learned to think of pregnancies as problems to be solved instead of lives to be protected. But Jesus didn't show me these memories to shame me. I could feel his sorrow, but it wasn't disappointment in me. It was sorrow for me, for what I'd lost along the way. We walked until we reached the edge of the meadow, where there was a building made of the same golden light I'd seen everywhere else. Jesus pushed open the door and my breath caught in my throat. Inside was something like a nursery, but bigger than any room could possibly be. And floating throughout the space were thousands upon thousands of glowing orbs, each one about the size of a soap bubble, each one pulsing with gentle light. "What are they?" I whispered. Jesus smiled, and his joy was so bright I could barely look at him. "These are the ones who never got to take their first breath on earth, the ones whose lives ended before they began." My legs gave out. I sank to the floor as the truth hit me like a physical blow. "The babies," I said, "all the babies." "Every single one," he said, kneeling beside me again. "Every life has value, Grace. Every soul has a purpose. These little ones, they're safe here with me. They never knew pain or fear, but they also never got the chance to experience all the beautiful things you've experienced. They never got to feel grass under their feet or taste strawberries or hear their mother's laughter." I was sobbing again, but this time it was different. This time I was grieving not just for the lives that had ended, but for the joy that had been prevented. For first steps that would never be taken, for lullabies that would never be sung, for dreams that would never be chased. "I helped end so many," I whispered. "I convinced their mothers it was the right choice. I told them it would be easier." "You thought you were helping," Jesus said. "I know your heart, Grace. You genuinely believed you were reducing suffering, but here's what I need you to understand." He helped me stand and look at him fully. "Love without truth is not love," he said, "and truth without love is not truth. What you offered those women was not complete. You gave them one option while withholding the full truth about what they were choosing. And what many of my followers offer is not complete either. They share hard truths without the love that makes truth bearable." I stared at him, trying to understand. "Real love," he continued, "tells the whole truth even when it's difficult. And real truth is always spoken in love, with compassion for the person hearing it. Both are needed, both together. That's what I want you to go back and share." "Go back?" I asked. He smiled. "Did you think this was the end?" "I don't understand," I said. "Am I not? Did I not die?" "You did," Jesus said. "Your heart stopped for 3 minutes, but I'm giving you a choice. You can stay here with me, and it would be wonderful, Grace. No more pain, no more guilt, no more broken relationships, just peace and joy and love forever." The offer was tempting, more than tempting. After years of feeling numb and distant, the idea of staying in this place of perfect peace sounded like everything I'd ever wanted. "But," I asked, because I could hear it in his voice, "but if you go back, you can share what you've learned. You can help other people understand that love and truth aren't opposites, they're partners. You can help women facing difficult pregnancies see all their options, not just some of them. You can help my followers learn to speak hard truths with soft hearts." I looked around at the glowing orbs, at the peace of this place, at Jesus himself. How could I possibly choose to leave this? "I don't think I'm strong enough," I admitted. "Going back means facing Frank and Emma and everyone at work. It means admitting I was wrong about so many things. It means starting over completely." "You won't be starting over alone," he said. "I'll be with you every step of the way, not just watching from heaven, but really with you. You'll feel it." I thought about Frank, probably still pacing that hospital waiting room. I thought about Emma, who might not even know yet that her mother was dying. I thought about all the women who would walk into clinics like the one where I worked, scared and confused and needing someone to offer them hope instead of just solutions. "If I go back," I said, "everything will have to change." "Everything," he agreed. I looked at him one more time, at the perfect love in his eyes, at the peace he was offering me. "I'll go," I said. "I'll go back and tell them what I've seen." He smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise. "I knew you would." The next thing I knew, I was back in my body, and everything hurt. Hospital beds are not comfortable when you've been lying in one unconscious for 3 days. My ribs ached from where they'd done CPR. My throat was raw from the breathing tube, but underneath all that physical pain was something I hadn't felt in years: hope. Frank was asleep in the chair beside my bed, his hands stretched out to touch mine. He looked older than when I'd seen him last, more tired, but he was there. "Frank," I whispered. His eyes flew open, and for a moment he just stared at me like I might disappear. Then he was on his feet, leaning over me, tears streaming down his face. "Oh, thank God," he kept saying. "Thank God, thank God." Over the next few days, as I recovered, I tried to explain what had happened. Frank listened, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. He was just grateful I was alive. The details about Jesus and the meadow and the glowing orbs, those were harder for him to accept. But then Emma came. She arrived on a Thursday evening, still wearing her work clothes because she'd driven straight from Denver after Frank called her. When she walked into my room, her face was guarded, like she was bracing for disappointment. "Hi, Mom," she said carefully. "Emma," I started crying just looking at her. "Oh, sweetheart, I have so much to tell you." Over the next 2 hours, I told her everything. About the accident, about meeting Jesus, about the nursery full of souls who never got to experience earthly life. I told her about the lesson I'd learned about love and truth working together. When I finished, Emma was quiet for a long time. "Do you really mean it?" she asked finally, "about everything changing?" "I mean it," I said. "I already put in my resignation at the clinic. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I can't keep doing what I was doing." Emma's face crumpled and she fell into my arms. "I've missed you so much, Mom," she sobbed. "I've missed you for years." "I've missed me too," I said, holding her tight, "but I'm back now, really back." It wasn't immediate magic. Healing never is. Frank and I went to counseling for months, learning how to talk to each other again, learning how to be married instead of just cohabiting. Emma and I had long conversations about forgiveness and change and what it means to really love someone. I left Planned Parenthood and after several months of prayer and searching, took a job at a pregnancy resource center. It was different work. Instead of providing one solution, we helped women explore all their options. We offered practical support, baby clothes, cribs, parenting classes, job training. But we also offered something I'd never learned to give at my old job: hope. The hardest part was learning to see people differently, not as problems to be solved or obstacles to overcome, but as souls, precious, valuable souls with stories and dreams and potential. Every woman who walked through our doors was carrying not just a pregnancy, but a whole life's worth of experiences that had led her to that moment. My job wasn't to make her choice for her. It was to help her see all her options clearly, to support her no matter what she decided, and to remind her that she was loved. Some chose to parent, some chose adoption, and yes, some still chose abortion, but they all knew they'd been heard, really heard, and they all knew they had people who would help them whatever they decided. It's been 3 years since the accident, and I'm still learning what it means to be alive, really, truly alive instead of just surviving. I wake up now and notice things. The way morning light looks different in winter than in summer. How Frank's laugh sounds when he's genuinely delighted about something. The feeling of Emma's hand in mine when we're walking together. I garden again, I read novels. I call my sister every Sunday and we talk for an hour about everything and nothing. But mostly, I live with eternity in view. That's what seeing the other side does to you. It changes your perspective on everything. The things I used to think were important: career advancement, having the nicest house, winning arguments, those things feel small now. What matters is love, real love, the kind that tells the truth even when it's hard, the kind that offers hope even in difficult circumstances. I think about those glowing orbs I saw, those souls who never got their chance at earthly life, and I try to live fully enough for all of us. Not in a frantic, desperate way, but in a way that honors the gift I've been given. Every day is borrowed time now. Every conversation is a chance to share a little bit of what I learned in that meadow. Every person I meet is someone Jesus loves completely, someone worth seeing and hearing and caring about. If you're listening to this and you think you've gone too far, made too many wrong choices, hurt too many people, I want you to know something. I met the one who knows every wrong thing you've ever done, every time you've fallen short, every way you've failed. And his love for you hasn't changed, not even a little bit. It doesn't matter what you've done or what you've left undone. It doesn't matter how numb you've become or how lost you feel. There's always a way back. There's always a chance to start again. 3 years ago, I was dead for 3 minutes, but I've never been more alive than I am right now. That's what I want for you too, not just survival, not just getting by, but real, full, abundant life. It's never too late to start living. Dear beloved, Grace's encounter is a reminder that no one is too far gone and no life is beyond the reach of God's love. Jesus doesn't just confront us with truth, he holds us with love as he shows us the way back. If you've ever felt like you've made too many mistakes or wondered if it's too late to change, Grace's story is proof that it's never too late. 3 minutes in eternity gave her a lifetime of hope, and that same hope is available to you today. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who you think needs encouragement, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful testimonies of faith and eternity. Thank you for listening.